All right, let's talk about Warren Buffett. We all know him as one of the greatest investors ever. But today, we're digging into his blueprint for something bigger than just being rich. We're talking about how to build a truly wealthy life. So let's just start with Buffett's own words, because this kind of flips everything on its head. He says his measure of success has almost nothing to do with his bank account, and everything, and I mean everything, to do with love. It's a pretty wild place to start, and it's really the foundation for his entire philosophy. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll dive into that core philosophy. Then we'll get into what he calls the single best investment you can ever make. After that, we'll unpack his mindset as an investor, cover 5 super practical rules, and then wrap it all up by looking at this huge difference between being rich and being wealthy. So seriously, what does success actually look like to a guy who could literally buy almost anything he wants? Well, the answer is a whole lot simpler and honestly way more profound than you might think. For Buffett, this isn't just some, nice feel-good idea. It's something he's seen play out in real life. He's noticed that the people who are genuinely surrounded by love aren't just happier, which makes sense, but they also tend to be more successful financially. It's this incredible connection. A life that's rich in relationships often leads to a life that's rich in, well, everything else. Okay, so if that's the core philosophy, how does it connect to making money? Let's get into what Buffett considers the single most important investment you'll ever make. And get this, it's an investment that's inflation-proof, you can't tax it, and nobody can ever take it away from you. You hear him say this over and over again. And no, we're not talking about some hot stock tip or a secret crypto coin. It's all about building your own value. And he breaks this down into 2 super simple, really actionable areas. And here they are. It's beautiful, right? So simple, but so powerful. First, get really good at communicating, getting your ideas from inside your head out into the real world. And second, take care of the one body and one mind you're ever going to get. It sounds almost too basic, but Buffett insists these are the absolute cornerstones of building your personal worth. So here's the kicker. Buffett is convinced that just by getting better at speaking and writing, you can increase your personal value by 50%. Instantly. He has this great line where he says, if you have great ideas but can't communicate them, it's like winking at someone in a pitch-black room. You know what you're doing, but nobody else has a clue. And this analogy for his second point is just brilliant. Imagine I offered you any car you wanted for free. The only catch? It's the only car you'll ever get for your entire life. You'd probably treat that car like gold, right? Well, that car is your body and your mind. You have to start taking care of it now, not wait until you're 50 and it's all rusted out. Okay, so once you've made that foundation of investing in yourself, then we can talk about financial investing. And this is where Buffett draws a massive, bright red line between 2 things that people get confused all the time. This slide just lays it out perfectly. It's 2 totally different games. On one side, you have the investor. Think of them like a farmer who buys a field to see what crops it can produce, year after year. On the other side, you have the speculator. They're just betting, hoping some other person, the greater fool, will come along and pay more for it later. For Buffett, these are not the same sport, not even close. The whole Buffett strategy comes down to this one idea. He wants to own things that do things that are productive. A farm produces corn, an apartment building produces rent, a company like Apple produces iPhones. The asset itself is working for you, day in and day out. And if you think this is a new thing, he'll be the first to tell you to look at history. Back in the 1600s, people in Holland were paying more for a single tulip bulb than for an entire house, before it all came crashing down. He sees echoes of that today in assets that don't actually produce anything. The technology changes, but that core human desire to get rich quick, that hasn't changed in 400 years. Okay, this is where we get super practical. If you want to put all this philosophy into action, here are the 5 solid gold rules that Buffett lives by to build and, just as importantly, keep his wealth. All right, rule number 1, and this one might actually surprise you. Buffett thinks cash is a terrible investment. He sees a big pile of cash as just this lazy, unproductive thing that's getting eaten alive by inflation every single day. For him, money should never be sitting around doing nothing. You keep what you need, and you put the rest to work. And rule number 2 flows right out of what we were just talking about. He'd rather own a farm than a bar of gold any day of the week. Why? Because the farm makes something. It grows food. It creates value year after year. The gold? It just sits in a vault, and you just hope someone else wants to pay more for it someday. He wants assets that work, not assets that wait. Rule 3 is all about humility. You don't have to be a genius about everything. In fact, you can't be. But you absolutely have to know the difference between what you understand and what you don't. The size of that circle of competence isn't what's important. What's crucial is that you know exactly where the edge is and you never step outside of it. Rule 4 is all about discipline. The process is always the same. First, he does the homework. He figures out what a company is actually worth, its real intrinsic value. Only after he has that number in his head does he even bother to look at the stock price. If the market is freaking out and offering him that great business for a cheap price, then it's a buy. It's value shopping, not gambling. And here we are, full circle, back to the most important rule of all. Your single greatest asset is you. It's your talent, your skills, your reputation. That's the one thing that will compound for your entire life. And it's the one thing that no one can ever take from you or tax away. It all starts and ends with you. All right, let's tie this all together with one final, and I think most powerful distinction that Buffett makes. This really gets to the heart of everything, and it separates the idea of being rich from the idea of being truly wealthy. Look, he'd say being rich is just a number on a spreadsheet. It's your net worth. But being wealthy, that's a whole different state of being. It's about freedom, it's about health, it's about waking up every morning genuinely happy and, crucially, getting to spend your day with people you actually like and respect. Money can help with that, for sure, but it can't buy it. I mean, Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in the 1950s. He says that after you get to a certain level of comfort, more money doesn't really change your daily life. What it does buy you, the ultimate luxury, is freedom. The freedom to control your own time every single day. And you can't put a price on that. So when you boil it all down, the big takeaway from Buffett's life is this: think bigger than just the money. True success is this mix of financial freedom, sure, but also a life that's packed with love and purpose. And that really leaves us with the most important question we can ask ourselves. What does true wealth really mean to you?